Ahoy Wooden Boat Fans, and welcome back to Journey of Sailing Yacht Syrinx. In this episode, we finally get going on... In this episode, after months of prep, we finally get going on... Paco, quiet! After months of prep and logistics, we finally get going on working on the boat, and in this case it's the removal of the garboard strakes, which are the lowest plank, form the joint between the broad strakes and the keel. Very important joint on the boat, and will allow us to get in there and do some examinations. And for those that stay around to the end of the video, we've got a special surprise. I'm going to take you on a trip around the world to a maritime museum where they have some of the oldest and most ornate wooden boats available. So come on along. Well, welcome back to Syrinx here. This is a very important day. It's the first day we're really doing work on the boat. The goal here is to start to remove the garboards. And the purpose of doing that is to gain access to the keel, be able to examine it from ultimately all four sides, refinish it. I'm doing this ahead of doing the boat shed because I'm concerned that we've now got a tarp over the boat and soon the boat shed, and without water getting into her bilge, this keel is going to dry out. So I want to just be able to examine it and start putting oil onto the keel. Also want to rebed the garboard while it's off. Just clean it, rebed it. One thing I've learned since the last video, speaking with one of the former owners, Steve Jones, is that these Dutchman repairs that go up into the large wrought iron floor fittings, these were actually installed by Berthen boats back sometime after she was built, and they did this on a large number of the gauntlets that had issues with galvanic corrosion caused by bronze fasteners mixed with they're actually not wrought iron, they're actually steel, galvanized steel floors. So they replaced the fasteners with galvanized, and then there must have been evidence of damage to the planks because they put these fittings in. He thought it occurred maybe 10 years after she was built, but it seems odd that they would have had that amount of damage to the timbers to require these Dutchmen. So I'm not sure if I have a full understanding of the story, but there may be more to it than it was done in the 70s. Anyway, want to get on taking the garboards off, so come on along, let's go do that. And I want to describe for you some of the tools we're going to use to take the garboard off. First, to get the bungs out, using a Forstner bit, same diameter as the bung, in a cordless driver, low speed. Seems to be working pretty well. I have a hammer and chisel also as another option, but this seems to work so far. Once the bung's out, got to clean out the slot. I made this little tool I'll describe in a second that helps with that. Next step is getting the fastener loose. They're sometimes stuck, so I'm using a hand impact driver with a hammer like this. As you hold it on there, this drives it into the fastener and turns at the same time as you're hammering. Really good for breaking loose stuck fasteners. A little bit gentler than an impact wrench would be. Once they're loose, I've got a slotted bit in my brace that helps back them out quick, or I've got a big old slotted Irwin screwdriver here if that helps, if that's more appropriate. And lastly, I got pliers for backing them out that last little bit. So here's a tool I made to clean out the threads on the the large slotted screws, and it's just an old file that that I ground the end to have a nice sharp end on, a little bit thinner width of the blade slot on the slotted screw. It's working pretty well so far. Alright, well, we have an auspicious moment here, taking out the very first fastener from Syrinx of what are going to be thousands to come, probably, or at least hundreds. And it's interesting, it only took about a ½ inch of turning before I lost all purchase. So this is a piece of the stern timber that's almost got huge checks in it, and will almost certainly be one of the pieces I replace. But yeah, it doesn't have, you can put it in a long ways, it doesn't have a ton of purchase. So, but the fastener itself is actually in usable shape. It's bronze. So, problem I'm running into here is on about every third fastener, I'm ending up breaking off half the head, you know, because the fastener is somewhat corroded. And that's like one of the downsides of the slotted screws is that you know, they don't have support all the way around the circumference, so if you're prying on it, it'll tend to break that half the head off. And so I don't really want to leave too many of these in here and have danger of bunging up the holes as I'm pulling the plank off. So I'm trying to pull them out with an easy out, which requires me to first sort of punch a flat onto the end of the fastener head, you know, with a punch, and then I'm center punching, and then I've gone in, and this one's already been done, so I'm just showing you what I've done. And then I'm going in with a drill, very carefully trying to drill down the middle of the shank of the fastener. And then next, I've got an easy out here, which is for those that don't know what an easy out is, it's like a cone with a reverse spiral and lets you back out broken fasteners. So that goes in that hole. And you can grab it with a, you know, it's got a square end on it, so you can grab it with the tap wrench. And you, in theory, you can back these out. You want to go slow, not twist it. And, you know, I was actually getting some advice not to take the garboards off, and I'm glad I did not listen to that. I always knew I was going to take them off, but what I'm finding in the fasteners is three kinds of fasteners. The kind that the heads break off of, which is about a third, and then I have to drill the shank out with an easy out. I've got about a third that the threads have pretty much disappeared, so you can turn the fastener and it just won't back out. You have to kind of work it out, but it's got no holding power. And then about a third that you can back out. They have purchase, but I have not found one so far that had purchase all the way over the length of its threads. So really, you know, this tells me that anywhere I've got these threaded fasteners, I'm probably going to need to pull them and at least check them. The bronze fasteners, and I know this garboard was actually refastened back in 1977, so with bronze fasteners. So it's just, I can't tell which fasteners are new, if they're all new, but they're all, for the most part, needing replacing. So I'm glad I'm doing this work. And I'll probably have to do it in other places. We've got slotted fasteners too. Not maybe necessarily pulling the entire plank, but definitely pulling the fasteners. challenge with getting these screws out is most of them have the threads have corroded away to the point where you can loosen them, but they don't want to back out. So the process has been to kind of break them free with a screwdriver, spin them a little bit with the drill, and then I end up having to go in with a little screwdriver and try and get it under the head to get some pressure on it, and work them this way, a little at a time, without bunging up the hole, because I want to reuse these. And you can see it's backing it out. You got to keep pressure on it. It's not easy, but you get out far enough, there we go, where you can finally get them out of there. And some of them are easier than others. There's another one that no threads, basically. So it's basically a nail held in place by corrosion. Well, we're out here for day 2 of garboard removal. Almost got the fasteners out on the starboard side. Got a stop water here that isn't going to stop a lot of water. Get rid of that. And let's get at it. Alright, well, I've got all the fasteners on the exterior of the starboard garboard taken out. It's now time. I've procrastinated long enough. It's time to go inside the bilge. I've got to take out these steel fasteners, galvanized, that go through the floors, and that should free up the garboard to come loose. Oh, something's turning. Not sure if it's the nut or the entire assembly, bolt and all. Oh yeah, it's the entire bolt. Looks like it's going to be a grinder. Well, so after working for way too long in the bilge, getting about half of the fasteners on this side out of those lags that were going through the floors, I got a better idea and decided on plan C, which is to drill the heads off from this side of those galvanized fasteners and then pound them straight back out through the floors. So that's what I've been doing. It seems to be working pretty well. Okay, here's the moment of truth. I've got the fasteners pulled out. I've reefed out most of the caulking and paint compound. I've got I'm being very careful to not damage the caulking bevels on this plank, because I intend to reuse this garboard if possible. So I'm just working this in here, and I am getting a little bit of purchase here. I can get behind it, and there we go. Let's see. Careful here. There it comes. And I think I'm hung up on one fastener shank up there, so I have to just take this a piece at a time. All right, well, we have a lot of caulking and paint compound to remove from our planks on the boat, and we need to do it first on around the garboard seams to be able to get the garboards off the boat. To do that, I kind of made the tools that I've seen others use. I took a carpet knife and kind of blunted it off here, and I also have a file that I've formed the end on to have a blade. Both of those work okay, but I found that, you know, this is really, the caulking is really pounded in. It's a combination of cotton and oakum, and depending on where you're at, and you know, that you go like this and you can barely get it to move. It's like it just doesn't want to come out. And, well, that one's coming, but sometimes it's really stuck, and kind of risk damaging the planks and things if you get too far offline. So as I was working along, I kind of quickly evolved an idea to put just a vice grip on the blade and create a bit of a fulcrum, so I can push with that. I come in here and then I just go like this, and it just comes right out easily. You can see. So the downside with this is there's a sharp edge here on the vice grip. It ends up leaving little marks along the plank. So we're gonna go to the shop, and I'm gonna attempt to fabricate a tool that's a little bit more elegant version of what I've got here. Well, we got all of the pieces for the reefing hook cut and fit, and they're a tight fit, and we're going to get ready to weld. Just looking close up here, we've got a hole that drilled and ground through the blade. This is extremely hard steel in the middle with soft steel on the outside, so drilling even with my best cobalt bit was difficult, so I had to do the final bit of the grind. So I've got a pin going through here that'll bear on the planks, and then I fitted this handle, a piece of 1-inch pipe, and it's got a little end coming through here that had a cone, and that'll allow me to weld the end there and weld here, weld these joints, and this is going to be a nice rigid tool to help reef out the seams. All right, well, not the prettiest welds I've ever done, but definitely functional. Got at them with the grinder and wire wheel and cleaned them up so they look great now. And the tool's just stout as heck, and I think it's going to work great, but let's go give it a try. Well, here we got a seam that's got, this happens to have cotton only caulking, tightly packed, and paying compound. It's splitting here, but in other areas it's been in there pretty firm. So this just goes in like this, pull it up behind, and then it's pivoting on that pivot shaft on the plank, and it's not marking the plank or anything, and it just takes it out of there so nice. This is like night and day over just using a normal reefing hook. Just work your way along. Sometimes the cotton gets stuck on the paying compound, but that'll come off when we pull the garboard off. But yeah, this is just like takes a job that was a complete pain in the butt and makes it way faster and way easier. We're going to do the entire, recaulk the entire boat at some point. So I've got a lot of feet of seams to do, and this is going to be a game changer. There you can see it just takes it out, and you can really control it, the direction, so you're not going to accidentally hook the side of the caulking bevel, and I like that as well. Gives you a good reference to where the blade's at. Ronan's calling this thing the Eagle Claw. Day 3 of fastener removal brought a bunch more of the same. Won't bore you with the details, but suffice to say it was a combination of backing out pesky screws, using the slide hammer to remove the occasional square copper dump, and drilling anything else that did not cooperate. You got a hold of it, Ronan? Mm-hmm. Okay, what we don't want to do, you're going to have a lot of leverage where you're at, so we don't want to break this plank. And I'm trying to not bung up the edges, so let's just try to work it out. Finally, after several days of fastener and caulk removal, Ronan was able to give me a hand, and we got on with removing the garboard strakes. This was done with caution to minimize damage to the fastener holes or the plank edges. Yeah, it'll take a little while till it's free. It'll support itself well. Going, that's good. All right, bud. Very good. 2 garboards down. Whoa, that's good. All right. Okay, so after many days of work, here's our 2 garboards taken off, and I've laid out here a number of the hundreds of fasteners we took off. They basically break down into a handful of types. We've got these naval brass, probably original, number 16 3-inch slotted head screws. These have lost their zinc content over the decades and turned pinkish red, and they're brittle to the point that you can't twist the head without it breaking off. Got very few of these out without breaking the heads. So those are the oldest ones, I think. The next ones are the silicon bronze number 16 3-inch slotted head screws. A bunch of these, especially along the bottom edge of the garboards. I think most of these were added during a 1976 retrofit. Some were in okay shape. Most had a good portion of the threads corroded away. They all needed to be taken out to be trusted. The next group, there were a number of these copper square dumps or nails. They had to be typically drilled and tapped and pulled out with a slide hammer to get them out. They're in pretty good shape mostly. There were a few that had some corrosion. And then these galvanized steel lag bolts, many of which are in really bad shape, as you can see here, corroded halfway through its thickness. These were added by Berthen, I believe, when those large Dutchmen were added to address galvanic corrosion damage because of having large bronze or copper fasteners applied directly into those steel galvanized steel floors or wrought iron floors. So what happened here is, as these fasteners corroded, you had electrolysis or galvanic corrosion occurring, possibly exacerbated by either stray current in the boat or even in the water in the marinas that she may have been sitting in. What happens is, as that electrolysis occurs, you have byproducts that are released. They're base type products, alkaline, lye basically, and that soaks into the wood, and you can see it around the fastener holes and in other areas nearby. And over time that can break down the lignin in the wood, basically turn it pulpy, and destroy the wood. I think teak is more resistant to that maybe than some other woods, thankfully, but it definitely, we've got areas here. The telltale signs are kind of white crystalline deposits, which we did have in some places. I put vinegar on it and you can see them foam a little, which tells you that they're alkaline. Vinegar is a mild acid. So what's next? Well, we've got a lot of cleaning to do. We got tar and other bedding compounds and things that we'll need to clean off on these. Ultimately, we're going to be doing a lot of penetrating epoxy, or Dutchman repairs or bung repairs to get these planks usable. I do think they're going to be usable. They're not cracked. They seem fairly solid. These are very valuable pieces of teak. Probably, you know, they're 15 inches wide, 30 feet long. The board feet, you know, let's do quick math. At 50 or 60 bucks a board foot for teak these days, you're talking about $1,500 or $2,000 possibly for raw materials to remake these each. A lot of money, so it's well worth saving them. We're going to do some work on cleaning up the keel. Got to clean up the refasten where the ribs are, or the frames are meeting the keel. I'm debating on whether or not I'm going to try to get that joint apart to rebed it or not. Just got to decide more about how to approach that. All of this needs a boat shed, so we're gonna start on that, Ronan and I, shortly. We've got the materials, plans are all ready to go. We should have some time here coming up, and we'll get that going before the bad weather comes in this fall. Let's see. I'm going to take you guys here before the video is over on a little travelogue to Turkey. Visit the Bosporus Straits. But before I do that, I want to say a word about the YouTube channel. First off, thank you so much for everybody who's taken the time to like and leave comments and subscribe to our channel. That really means a ton and really helps us grow our community here and the channel. You may have noticed we're not putting out videos at a fast rate. We're 8 months into the project and this is our 7th video. Less than one a month, or about one a month. That's about as good as I'm going to be able to do for the time being. I hate to say it. I'll be real with you. Got a lot going on with my family. Got a lot going on with our working on our home, and at my workplace helping design a new airplane. So quite a busy time. That'll change over time, and maybe be able to, I'd love to be able to turn out a video every week or two, but that's just not in the cards immediately. I'm really committed to having decent quality videos, the best I can do. Good storyline, interesting things for you guys to watch, you know, with a beginning, a middle, and an end. And so just stick with us. I really appreciate the patience. But hey, let's go around the world to Turkey and take a look at some cool old boats. Alright, well, you guys might be wondering why we've made so little boat progress this week. It's because I had to take a trip to Istanbul, Turkey for work, and so I got a day here to do a little bit of sightseeing, and I'm going to take you guys along, so come on along. first thing my colleague Joe and I did was take a short boat tour of the Bosporus Straight. This historic channel connects the Black Sea to the Mediterranean and forms the border between Europe and Asia. It's a thriving seascape with anglers fishing from every shore, tourists bustling everywhere, and the most talented ice cream vendors in the world. Next, we paid a visit to the Turkish Naval Museum with wooden boats and artifacts going back 500 years. The history of Istanbul has truly been defined by the sea. This is how you travel the world if you were a sultan in Turkey 100 years ago. Here's to a wonderful visit to Turkey. They have great coffee here, by the way. Well, and with that, we're off and running. Thank you once again for joining us on Journey of Sailing Yacht Syrinx.